How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the primary causes of chronic fatigue syndrome. So if you think you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you must understand that there's not one main cause of chronic fatigue syndrome. It is not some kind of biological thing that has one mechanism. It's just a term that people use to describe a cascade of symptoms, and it can have multiple causes. If you have what they call chronic fatigue syndrome, the worst thing you can do is just assume that you know what the problem is, or just stop at chronic fatigue syndrome, okay? Don't assume that any of these following causes are what's causing yours unless you have clinical diagnosis or it's just basic common sense, okay? Chronic fatigue syndrome is very simple. Typically, hypochondria comes along with chronic fatigue syndrome, and people overcomplicate it beyond measure, and they never get better because of how complicated they make it. All right? So, first of all, the number one cause of chronic fatigue syndrome is that you have been lacking sleep. If you're not sleeping, 5 hours minimum, because 5 hours should be the minimum, especially if you're on a ketogenic diet and you're healthy. If you're not sleeping at least 5 hours uninterrupted, that can definitely be causing fatigue. So the second cause is definitely going to be chronic stress that your body is not recovering from. So, for example, if you are a high-level athlete such as myself, and you never allow your body time to recover, or your mind, obviously that stress and that fatigue is going to accumulate over time to the point where you just feel excessively tired and fatigued most of the time. So in that regards, in that case, the best thing you can do is, for example, if it's exercise, stop exercising for at least 7 days and get sleep and rest as much as you can and eat good, nourishing foods. And that should cure it. So if you are an athlete, or if you're just constantly working, or you're constantly walking all the time, then it's no wonder why you're stressed. That's why you need to give yourself a break, okay? And that's going to be the cause if it sounds like you. So there's that. The next cause of chronic fatigue syndrome is going to be blood sugar imbalances and food intolerances. So if you're consuming a lot of carbohydrates, no matter where the source is, if it's a lot of fruit, if you're consuming over 100 grams of carbohydrates, you should probably dial it back to under 50 for a while and see what happens. Just do this to see if it makes a difference, okay? And in that meantime, make up those calories with fat and protein, primarily coming from whole foods. Alternatively, you can just follow a low glycemic load carbohydrate, not index, low glycemic load, okay? The third, and food intolerances. If you're consuming a large amount of fiber, if you have digestive imbalances that come along with it, that will definitely cause fatigue. That'll make you feel super ran down. That'll also interfere with your sleep. And so you're going to have to probably lower the amount of fiber that you're intaking. And particular foods that seem to cause this problem are going to be whole grains. Stay away from whole grains for a while. And fibrous non-starchy vegetables, as well as tuberous and starchy vegetables and legumes and things of that nature. Essentially, you're going to want to avoid fiber completely with an elimination diet for approximately 7 days. See if that makes a difference, and if it doesn't, then that is not your problem, obviously. So the third cause of chronic fatigue syndrome is going to be electrolyte imbalances. Typically, people do not consume enough sodium. So even on a standard diet that has higher carbohydrates, you're going to want to consume a minimum of 3 grams of sodium per day. The quick remedy and recommendation for this is to start taking about 1/4 of a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt every 3 hours. Try to get about 1 tablespoon of salt every single day. I know that sounds like a lot, and most people are scared of it, but just do this for 7 days and see if it makes a difference. After 1 day, you should see a drastic difference, and typically once you get your electrolytes in check, after the first dose, you should feel significantly different within 2 minutes. Another possibility is potassium. You can try hitting your potassium through avocados, through carrots, through many different things. Even coffee, per 10 ounces of brewed coffee is supposed to have about 100 milligrams of potassium. Cream of tartar and low salt is what I use, or new salt. I use new salt. But be very careful with potassium, because overdose of potassium can cause heart palpitations and many other problems, particularly in people with kidney failure, kidney problems, or type 1 diabetes. Obviously, magnesium is also going to be another electrolyte that you probably want to get in check. Try taking about 400 milligrams of magnesium citrate before bed. That's my preferred source, and it plays a vital role in potassium balance, and sodium does as well. If you're not getting enough sodium, or you're not getting enough magnesium, your body will not be able to retain potassium. Okay, so that is why it's important. Also, blood pressure will go down when you eat enough sodium and when you take in enough magnesium and you just take trace amounts of potassium. All right, so those are the primary causes. Usually it's stress-induced. Usually people have hypochondria. If you're constantly wondering, like, oh, like, what's my problem? Why am I sick? Like, I have all these health problems. I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, you're freaking out. Like, I have chronic fatigue. I have candida. I have this. I have that. Chances are all that anxiety and all that stress is going to rack up, and it will manifest itself as fatigue. So 9 times out of 10, it's overstress and under recovery. Now, there are a couple of other rare causes. Typically, people with viral infections, things like mononucleosis, obviously the flu, and things of that nature. Epstein-Barr from a tick bite, things of that nature. Viral infections can definitely cause fatigue. They can cause you to be ran down. Typically, though, that will manifest with symptoms of immune deficiency, things like allergies and runny nose, respiratory infection, things of that nature. But this is a possibility. Now, if you've never gotten tested, or if you have gotten tested and doctors tell you that you're fine, the last thing you want to do is continue to assume you have some kind of viral infection, okay? Unless it's like malignans or whatever that is, in which case that's an Epstein-Barr symptom. And doctors don't know that. So if you have not gotten tested for these things, then chances are you shouldn't worry about it. It's probably something simple. 9 times out of 10, it's something simple. It's due to electrolyte imbalances. It might even be vitamin C deficiency. So you could try just a basic ascorbic acid supplement. You don't need anything complicated. So so go ahead and give that a try, and leave your questions, comments down below, and calm down with the hypochondria. And I'll talk to you all in the next video.